Official competitive Valorant is now in its second year, heading into VCT Masters 1 2022 in Reykjavík, with 3 international tournaments that have come and gone. There have been 3 international champions that have graced the stage from Masters 2 all the way to Champions. And none of these champions have qualified for Masters 1. Let's go! Gone are the days of the dominant Sentinels, Gambit being ratty, and the newly minted crown jewel of Valorant Ascend, and hello, fresh blood. Because we have only been talking about NA Valorant, I thought we could shed some light on how Valorant's best region stacks up against the rest of the world. And in true North American fashion, I've been pretty ignorant to what's going on outside of these borders. But fear not, this is why we have stats. But before that, who is actually competing in Masters 1? Well, let's take a look. On your screen right now, these are the teams that are competing in Masters 1, and it's a pretty stacked competition. Our 2 representatives of NA, the Guard and Optic Gaming. The Guard coming away with a 212.4 ACS over 27 maps. Optic Gaming coming out with 206.7 over 26 maps. Now let's take a look at the other side of the pond. It's EMEA, NA's biggest rival. We have G2 coming out with a 211.1 over 26 maps, so very similar to the Guards. We have Fnatic next at 201.7 over 20 maps, and then Team Liquid coming in at an underwhelming 193.7 over 20. Over to what I consider to be the 3rd best region in competitive right now, and there's one team that has dominated this region for the entirety of its inception, and it's not even close. DRX, or X-Vision Strikers, with a 221 ACS over 22 maps. And aside from the hiccup of Masters 2, where they got their 104 game winning streak snapped, which is still impressive, DRX, or Vision Strikers, has completely dominated Korea, and with good reason, because they are the best team in Asia, no doubt. Moving over to Japan, where it hasn't really been a region that sticks out, but ZETA Division coming out on top with a 212.3, so very solid, but over 11 maps. That just shows they breezed through their challengers run. And who knows, maybe ZETA Division puts up a better fight this time than they did at Masters 3 in Berlin. Maybe this is a brand new ZETA Division that unlocks their potential. So very exciting to see. Now, let's go over to South North America. I'm just kidding. It's LATAM, and again, just like Korea, there's one team that has dominated this whole region, and it's a team that stole everybody's hearts at Champions. It's Crew. 207.5 over 11 maps. Again, these numbers you don't really go pound for pound for. I mean, if you take a look at the competition, some regions have a beefier competition over the others, but nonetheless, Crew at Champions in Berlin put up a stellar performance, and we cannot take away from any of those guys. Kesnit, Delzik, Mazzino, all of these dudes that showed up for Crew and upset Sentinels, that was really fun to watch. Even as an NA fan, I was very impressed, and I became a Crew fan that night. This time we're going over to a very, very popular esports country. It's Brazil. And Brazil, just like Japan, hasn't really had great showings. You know, you've had Team Vikings, you had Vivo Kid, Havan Liberty, Furia even put up a really solid run in Champions. But there's 2 teams that stood head and shoulder above the rest for at least this Masters 1. I'm talking about Loud, with a 228.3 ACS over 17 maps. And there's one player that we need to spotlight on Loud that has been probably the pillar of Brazilian Valorant, and that is Saucy, coming over from Team Vikings, who have made every single international competition, now leading the way for Loud. So shout out to you, Saucy. I hope you have a great run this time around. The other team following Loud in Brazil is Ninjas in Pyjamas, a 202.5 ACS over 24 maps. Not as impressive as what Loud put up, but to be the second team to represent your region, it's good enough. Moving over to, my heart and soul, it's APAC. And another team that stole our hearts, unfortunately, will not be competing in this international stage. Team Secret. They didn't even qualify for a spot in the Challengers closed qualifiers. But another team, another recognizable team that did show up, Paper Rex. 219.3 ACS over 16 maps. And following them is XERXIA. So it's a brand new banner that X10 is going to be riding under. So now that we've gone over all of the stats, what does this actually mean in terms of how NA stacks against the rest of the world? Well, for starters, there's one team that has showed up every single international tournament since Masters 3. It's Optic Gaming. I mean, Optic has continued to evolve. They've continued to adapt. Yes, they did drop the final map in a very close matchup against the Guard, who ended up being the Masters 1 champions. But one thing that we have to take account for is the Guard's inexperience on LAN and on an international stage. That is going to be an interesting watch, no doubt. But how does that stack up against another big region, EMEA? If you want to talk about consistent, they've had roster changes, but Fnatic has always been a name that has been around the international circuit. A squad led by Boaster, who is as hungry and as smart as any other IGL in the game. It's very easy to find success. Speaking of shakeups, G2 also really shaking up their roster. They don't have their previous IGL Cole Dementa. They no longer have that young Fragger and Kellogg's. Instead, the only three holdovers, Mixwell, Avova, and Nukie, followed by Hoodie and Meadow. This is a team to watch. And we could shed light on FPX because they did come away with, the victory, but I hope that we do get to cover them in the future when they are able to make these events. In their place is Team Liquid. Now, did Team Liquid play their best, judging by their record and their ACS? Absolutely not. But what they do have is the brother buff. And I'm excited to see the brother buff come on stage without the distraction of COVID, like what happened at Champions, and just all of the complications that happened in that tournament. I want to see Team Liquid succeed because I think it's about time for Team Liquid to really make some noise on an international stage. And of course, your steady competitors who knows? This is essentially a stage of fresh new blood, and maybe this is the time that DRX Vision Strikers finally realize that vision and claim an international crown, putting Korea on the map. Maybe it's that time, or maybe the best region in Valorant will do it again, but we'll see. Come game 1 for Masters 1 all the way till the grand finals, there's so much fresh blood on the board that anybody can be champion right now.